guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. So, the Japanese Grand Prix has come to a close, and what could be said? It was a good one, wasn't it? It was a good one. It was interesting, I would say. It was more about a strategic battle in the pit lanes as opposed to actual on-track action, but those strategic games that happened in the pit, shall we one stop, shall we two stop, technically anyway, after the brief red flag at the start of the race, of course. It meant, of course, that some overtakes happened on track, others didn't. They happened in the pit lane, and, you know, some then tried to make their way back through, etc. So it was a good race. There was some good battles, some good duels, but in the end, once they caught up to each other, you kind of knew who was going to win out because you knew who was on the much fresher tyres come the end, and they obviously carved their way back through the field. So yeah, it was an interesting one. It was a good race overall. Yeah, it was okay, wasn't it? So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points though. They're sometimes enough for some drivers that do something extra special during a race, and on the rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers that do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Crawl Room standings then going into this episode. It is on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is. And based on this race weekend overall, could you see them going up? Could you see them going down? There was some good racing put in by drivers up and down the field, and there was some shoddy racing once again up and down the field as well, which we'll come to in a moment, of course. But without further ado then, let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Back to his usual winning ways. It is Max Verstappen, of course. Yeah, what could be said really? Pole position, fastest lap, won the race by 13 seconds over his teammate. Yeah, it's just Max doing Max things, isn't it? Didn't get a grand slam, of course. He didn't lead every lap due to the strategic game that Ferrari were playing with Leclerc going for the one-stop option. But yeah, you know, apart from that, really, there's nothing really faultless about it, wasn't there? There's nothing to fault, was there, I should say. Nothing to fault. It was all very much of a muchness, and Verstappen just did the job he needed to do. Qualifying, okay, he only went a little bit quicker on his second lap, but he was already good enough for pole before he even finished that lap time. So yeah, he was a bit disappointed with the end lap in the end. I think he was kind of hoping he was going to be a couple of tenths away from the nearest rival of his teammate, but as it was, he was only 0.06 of a second. So, but like I say, it didn't matter anyway because Checo's lap wasn't fast enough for pole, even if Max had aborted that lap. So I wouldn't really call that an error as such. It certainly put him under a little bit more pressure than he needed to, but yeah, everyone else had completed their lap quite okay. As mentioned in the race itself, he led every lap that he was, you know, had the opportunity to lead. Of course, the strategy meant that the Ferraris buggered off into the distance a little bit briefly. Lando Norris was ahead as well at one stage. So, but yeah, it didn't really matter. And then he crosses the line 13 seconds ahead of his teammate. Yeah, Max doing Max things once again in that Red Bull. And it could be no less than 10 points, can it? It's a perfect 10 for Max Verstappen. Well done to him for that. A sublime bounce back after the disappointment that was Australia, of course, with his brake failure happening so soon in the race. And yeah, here he is taking another dominant victory. 10 to Max Verstappen. And then in second place, we come to Checo! Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull, of course. Already mentioned, had a great qualifying, actually. Less than a tenth away from his teammate in the end. Just a shame that that lap time wasn't just a little bit better. He had the fastest middle sector of everyone, but then that third sector didn't come to at all, did it? And he lost time there, so he meant he just missed out on that pole position. But, you know, had he got that lap together, and Max obviously, as we know, didn't get his lap together, it could have been a pole for Checo. Would it have been a win for Checo? Absolutely not, of course it wouldn't. Once again, Max Verstappen in a different league. He stayed within and around a few seconds of his teammate, but he was never looking like a threat at all, was he, at any point during the race? And whether he wanted to be or not, I'm sure he wasn't allowed to be. But nonetheless, Checo was very much happy with his performance. Once again, second place finish. The fourth consecutive 1-2 finish of the season. Only happened twice before, apparently. I don't know when it happened twice before. I'm going to imagine 2014 was one with the Mercedes. And that's a hunch, I'll say 2002? With the domination of Ferrari back then? I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, you know, it was once again another 1-2 finish to round off the season. Checo, of course, taking 3 second places, Max taking 3 wins, and the 1-2 for Ferrari last time out at Australia. So yeah, not really much to be said about Checo's performance other than it was what was expected of a number 2 driver, and that's all I can see him as, and that's all the team are looking at him for, you know. And I don't want to downgrade him or disrespect him for that, just that he, of course, the team is built around Max Verstappen. Checo's doing a fantastic job though. He's done okay. Australia was a bit of a dud, but I think the bullshit grid drop he got for it, for the qualifying there, was unfair, but nonetheless, this time around in Japan, it was decent, and he's going to get 9.5 for that for me, for Checo. I think he did a good job there. Couldn't beat his teammate, but then again, he's not expected to. Ran in second, made no mistakes, no issues. Compare this to Japan last year, where he was Mr. Shunt, Sergeant fucking Bash. No, it was absolutely perfect this time around. Can't fault a thing. 9.5 to Checo! And next up we come to Carlos Sainz, smooth operator, smooth operator. The only driver to have a 100% podium record in the races he has started. Of course, we've got to get that in. He wasn't there in Saudi Arabia, was he, bless him? But he's more than made up for it. He's only 4 points behind Leclerc now. Only 4 points behind Charles Leclerc. Can you believe that? In the standings overall, because of what he's done in the 3 races compared to what Charles has done in the 4. Ferrari, you've sacked the wrong man. That's all I'm going to say to that. He lined up quite well. Was he P4 or P5 on the grid? Nonetheless, a good effort. Mostly could get out that Ferrari. It looked like they'd set the car up more for a race trim compared to a qualifying trim, and that seemed to really show in the race, of course. Sainz went for the 2-stop, and he had the cars ahead that went for 1, so he dropped down to 6th, didn't he, in the end? Messing around with the Mercedes briefly after he came out for his 2nd stop. Whisked his way past George Russell, no issue. Whisked his way past Lando Norris, no problem either. And then Charles Leclerc came and they were like, look, be sensible, don't fight. And Leclerc didn't put up much of defence. He didn't give him the position, but Leclerc knew that race wasn't his for that final podium. And Carlos Sainz slipped his way through into that P3, which was the most that Ferrari could have asked for this weekend. The Red Bulls were in a league of their own. You could tell that and you could see that. Especially when you knew that Max didn't get the maximum out of qualifying either. But yeah, as I said, just Carlos Sainz, it's just doing so well, isn't it? How on earth has he not got a place in Formula 1 for next season already guaranteed? I mean, every team on the grid must want Carlos Sainz right now. I think even Ferrari are probably thinking, oh, shit. Can we ring Lewis? I don't know. Can we ring Lewis? Or shall we have a word with Charles? I'm not sure. But yeah, every team wants him. I just hope that the right opportunity arrives at the right time for Carlos, because he seriously deserves a front-running team. And would I take Mercedes if Mercedes offered it if I were Carlos? Not the way they're fucking pootling around at the moment, I wouldn't. No, I'd go for Aston Martin or Red Bull. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but, you know, team bitch at Red Bull. At least he can get more wins in his career. At least he can get more podiums. At least he's at a top team earning big bucks, big money, and in a team that has the chance and opportunities to win championships. Honestly, I think if he went to Mercedes, it would be a backward step from where he is at Ferrari right now. Aston Martin seem consistent, not as good as they were last year, of course, but they seem decent. And I think there's always opportunities there for Aston to go forward. Of course, we've got the budget cap to think about in Formula 1, so they can't go spending silly money, can Aston Martin, but things that aren't regulated by the budget cap, they are spending silly, and they've allegedly offered Adrian Newey the same amount of money per season as what Max Verstappen's getting, or something daft like that per season. So yeah, I'm sure there's a little cherry being dangled in front of Adrian Newey at the minute by Aston Martin, and it's just whether he bites or not. But for me personally, Carlos Sainz has been a superb addition this season. He has been such a revelation, and I think we'd have seen this from Carlos with or without the race seat for next season. I think if he was still signed for Ferrari, he would still be putting in this performance because he is that good. He's always been overlooked and underrated as Carlos. He really has, and it must be said that he has done a stunning job once again. So for Carlos Sainz, he's no less than 10 points from me. Perfect 10 for him for that. His race weekend overall was impeccable, and there's nothing else that can be said. Smooth operator, Carlos Sainz, 10 points to you. And finishing in 4th place, we come to La la, oh sacre bleu, sha-la-la. So, what could be said for sha-la-la's race weekend overall? It certainly improved as the race went on, didn't it? Qualifying himself down in P8 wasn't ideal. It was not good, was it? He was confused. He didn't really know what happened there, but his teammate was higher up the grid, so once again, out-qualified by his teammate that is on his way out. Yeah, Leclerc overall made the one-stop work, so he did a cracking job with tyre management, and Ferrari getting strategies right as well. Oh, fucking hell, who'd have thought it? I cannot believe how efficient Ferrari have been so far this season. I've probably cursed it now. I'm probably going to see an absolute disaster at China. But, you know, for now, they've done it well. They've really worked out that, hang on, our pace, we can stay out, we don't need to react to anyone else. We'll do our own thing, and the race will come to us. And that's exactly what happened with Charles Leclerc. Doing the one-stop strategy, he only got caught by his teammate, who didn't make life too hard for him when he came knocking. And he secured a solid P4 after starting P8 on a circuit that's always renowned difficult to overtake. He did good. Charles did good, but not as good as Carlos Sainz. That's all I'm going to say to that. So it's going to be a good score for Charles, but it's not going to be a perfect score. He's getting 8.5 from me. I think he deserves that. It was a solid weekend overall. But once again, in the shadow of his teammate a little bit, it must be said. Yep, the strategy got him up there. He, of course, had to make the tyres last to keep himself up there, so fair play to him for that. But once again, the overall pace and edge just went to Carlos. There you go. 8.5 to sha-la-la. Securing 5th place and another top 5 finish. It is Lando Norris. So yes, not to be a podium this time out, but a top 5 finish was the maximum really that McLaren could get out of it. Did well in qualifying to qualify himself in P3, but they knew that they were in for a long race ahead. Of course, already knew they didn't have the match for the Red Bulls, and as we mentioned there, Ferrari sent to go for a race pace strategy over qualifying. That worked out wonders for them, and they were able to leapfrog themselves ahead of Lando. And at one point, it looked like Lando could have held on to the podium, but then the overall pace and the way the pit stops played out, it just didn't work out, did it? Maybe at the very best there was P4 there in it, but I don't think they could have got much more out of that. And the way that the Ferraris were, it was just too much for him. So P5 I can't disrespect at all for Lando Norris. He's done a stunning job once again, getting the most out of the car he can. And yeah, just doing a good job overall, he really is. There's a lot of drivers really doing well and a lot of drivers that are impressing me. It's just a shame that the other half of the field really aren't. But we'll come to those in a moment. But for now, and what we're talking about at the moment, it's all high praise for most of these drivers, it must be said, inside the top 10, so they're all doing a great job. But yeah, Lando Norris, it's 8.5 for him as well, matching with Charles Leclerc. There wasn't much more he could have done this weekend. I just feel when you balance it out across the drivers and what they've done with their respective cars and teams up and down the field, I think that's a fair score for Lando Norris overall. 8.5 for him. Next up in 6th place, it is, of course, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. And again, a P6 finish, that's really where you'd expect the Aston Martin to be with the pace it's got at the moment. Yeah, you know, Alonso's race weekend overall was solid, wasn't it? Again, it's not the spectacle and all the multiple podiums that we saw from the start of him last season. But again, this is just where Aston Martin are at the moment. But they have got that option to go forward, haven't they? The team broke the curfew so they could put the upgrades and updates onto Alonso's car overnight to get him ready for the Saturday, for free practice 3 and into qualifying. And that seems to have worked out for him. Although it doesn't really seem that way, I think if he maybe not had the updates on, we could have seen him suffer and maybe lose out to the likes of Russell and, of course, Piastri behind, people like that. So yeah, you know, the updates seem to be working at the moment, although it's a bit of a stalemate at the moment. I think when you get to places like Miami, you're going to see it come through a little bit more. So yeah, they've brought the updates forward. They've gone on the car. They've not gone backwards, at least, like they did last year. So they've certainly not made any wrong decisions, but it'll take a couple more races to see how right they were with the upgrades they've delivered. But Alonso's weekend overall is solid, isn't it? And I did like the cheeky interview at the end, where they said, were you deliberately holding up Oscar Piastri so that Russell could be backed into him? So Oscar would have to look in his mirrors for Russell rather than looking ahead. And he went, I don't wish to tell you that because I think I'd be disqualified from the championship. So, yeah, I think that was a very good point to Fernando Alonso. As mentioned, of course, if you didn't see it, Australia, he got a 20-second time penalty for absolute horseshit reasons because George Russell couldn't keep it on the road. So he wasn't keen on answering the question. if he was deliberately backing up Piastri into Russell, because of course it'd mean he gets another penalty. But yeah, overall for Alonso this weekend, it's 8 points. 8 points to him. Did the most he could again with the car he got out of it. But there's drivers delivering more up and down the field. But again, it's no disrespect. 8 points is a fantastic score. We're not going to go into details about, we should get an extra one or not. It's still a very good score, and they're scoring massively above other drivers. So yeah, 8 to Alonso. Fantastic effort by him once again. Then we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for Fernando Alonso, and that's exactly what he did this time, didn't he? Ended up finishing just behind him, but didn't crash at least this time. Did actually make a last lap overtake that didn't involve contact, collisions, or anything to do with walls. Bravo, George. Bravo, my friend. What could be said for George's race weekend overall? Poor qualifying, difficult qualifying actually, only lining up in P9, and here he is finishing in P7. Yeah, it's all right, but this Mercedes car is looking wank, isn't it? It really is looking a bit shit. I don't know, though. I really don't know what to do with these drivers at the moment. I think there should be more in that Mercedes than what both drivers are getting out of it. But at the same time, neither driver is showing me that it has got more pace, so it's difficult to work out. So I'm just basing it on the fact that this is where we've got the car at the moment. This is the pace of the car. And overall, it was improvement from where he qualified. P9 to P7. Good last lap overtake on Oscar Piastri, who made a mistake. But yeah, he delivered the goods. He got what he could out of the car, I feel, although I still think there's more in that Merc. But yeah, having said that, I've given George a solid 7. A solid 7. Nothing special, nothing spectacular, but at least he brought it over the line this time, and didn't see anything bad from him. Just not this overall pace that I was expecting. Both drivers struggling. They went on the hard strategy as well, which might have not worked out for Mercedes, but drivers like Red Bull drivers were saying, oh, we could have gone hard, we'd have been happy with that, so difficult to work out. But yeah, overall 7 for George. I think he got the most out of the car he could with the strategy given, I guess. I don't know. I just feel there should be more pace in that Mercedes than what both drivers are letting up. But if neither driver's over-delivering, then I can't score the other one down, So yeah, solid 7 to George, but I'll keep a close eye on him because I don't know. I think there's more in that Merc. Finishing in 8th place and picking up a few points, it is Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. So yeah, his teammate finishes inside the top 5. Oscar Piastri, okay, qualifying was solid, lining up P6, was it? And then in the race itself, he was okay for starters, staying around that top 5 area, but as the race progressed, the strategy didn't play out, got overtaken by a few cars there, and then making that mistake on the last lap as well. Oh, what a shame. After putting up such a brave defensive drive, and of course we had George Russell lunging at him with a few laps to go, and he managed to hold that off brilliantly and valiantly, and then just making a mistake on the second to last lap for him as he came on to start the last lap, he was overtaken by George Russell. So that was a shame there. Oscar overall, he's scoring the points, which is decent, but we've not seen the best of him this race weekend, I don't feel. I think that McLaren car was certainly able to finish 5th and 6th this time out, and he didn't do that. So it's going to be 6.5 for me for Oscar Piastri. I think he's done an okay job, a decent job, picking up the points that he needs. But yeah, he'd certainly need to finish us a couple of places up to get any better than that from me. 6.5 to Oscar Piastri. Then we come to the curious case of Lewis Hamilton, finishing in P9, just 2 points. Oh my god, I mean, at least he's overtaking Lance Stroll in the championship now. Hallelujah! But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, he out-qualified his teammate, but his teammate had an absolute shocker in qualifying. And then in the race itself, struggling with a lot of understeer at the start. Didn't like the hard tyre option, wanted to come off it, but it was too late to do anything else at that point. Otherwise, he'd have to then stop again. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know with Lewis. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I'd like to say I think there should be more in this Merc than these drivers are getting out of it. But what do I know, eh? What do I know? I'm just a bloke shouting in a cupboard. But yeah, for me overall, it's just a very, very, very difficult start to the season for Lewis Hamilton. He's only got 10 points on the board, is it? It's something ridiculously low. And we've not seen him threaten anything at all this season, remotely close to a podium or a decent finish. So for Lewis Hamilton, I've given him 6. 6th, and I think that's probably generous by 1 point for definite, maybe even 2, I dare say. I think I've overscored George by 1 at least as well. I just don't know what to do with these Mercs. I think both drivers should be getting a lot more out of it, but as mentioned already with George, I can't see where they are in comparison, because both drivers I don't think are getting the maximum out of it. So yeah, but one thing's for certain, Lewis Hamilton seems to be having a much more difficult time in this car than what Russell is. But yeah, 6 points to Lewis Hamilton. Securing the final points paying position, it is of course Yuki Tsunoda in the Visa, Cash App, Maxi, Tampon, Honda, Virgin, Media, Sky, Broadband, Master, Card, RB, Red Bull, but not that one, but it is that one, but it was AlphaTauri, then it was Toro Rosso, but before that it was Minardi. There we go, we've done it. Well done to Yuki Tsunoda. His first home points at his home Grand Prix. It may only be one, but what a crucial one that is for RB, and what a fantastic weekend for Yuki Tsunoda overall. Getting himself into Q3 in qualifying is no mean feat for these bottom 5 teams. We call them bottom, it's also close, but he got in there, he got himself in. Got into Q3, and that's all that he could rely on. The first restart, the first race start I should say, he ended up losing a couple of places and dropping to 12th, but as the race progressed, he stayed in that 11th, 12th area, looking like it were working out. And then the sublime pit stop that came from the RB team as they came in. 4 came in for a pit stop all at once. You had Lando Stroll, you had Logan Sergeant, you had Valtteri Bottas, you had Yuki Tsunoda as well, of course, and you had Nico Alberg. There was 5 of them actually, wasn't there? Bloody 5 of the things. It was crazy, all in at once on the same lap, and it was the RB squad that got Yuki out first after coming in 3rd in the line. So he managed to climb a few places there, and that was key for him because he did not only got ahead of that pack, but he was also able to get out in a bit of clear air as well, and was able just to walk away from the rest of the field behind that were breaking away for that P10 position. So he was in a nice, comfortable, solid P10 place there, and no threat from behind, despite a late challenge from Stroll, was ever going to stop him from losing that position. Fantastic effort by Yuki Tsunoda. Once again, a Q3 effort, out-qualifying his teammate, and then in the race was running around the fringes of the points all race, and got his just desserts with that P10 finish. The first time a Japanese driver has scored points at their home Grand Prix since Kamui Kobayashi back in 2012 when he got his one and only podium in Formula 1. What a fantastic effort by Kamui that day, and what a fantastic effort by Yuki Tsunoda today as well. What a stunning effort, Yuki. Really pissing all over Daniel Ricciardo's bonfire now, isn't it? And I am absolutely loving the fact that every time Ricciardo fucks up, we panta Liam Lawson. Bravo, bravo. I enjoy that telly time. I really, really do. But we're talking about Yuki Tsunoda, of course, and there's nothing but praise coming from me. What a cracking effort. What a fantastic, crucial point at your home Grand Prix. I hope he's celebrating as we speak. What a stunning effort. It's a perfect 10, of course. It can be no less. Yuki Tsunoda, Q3 appearance and a P10 finish. One crucial point. Stunning, stunning drive. Mature. Ever since Bahrain, he has been absolutely perfect and has gone, fuck you, RB. It really, really is. I'm really happy for Yuki. Well done, you. 10 points to Yuki Tsunoda. Then we come to the drivers just finishing outside the points, and the first driver on this list is, of course, Nico Alberg. What could be said for Nico Alberg's race weekend overall? It was solid, wasn't it? It was just a shame that he had that difficult start on the race restart, of course, after the red flag, that he bogged down and tumbled his way to the back, because without that, maybe that could have been his point today as well, and keeping the points flowing for Haas. But as it was, a P11 finish after a P12 start, you look at that on paper, and I think Haas will take it. They were very, very lost in free practice 1 and 2, and they were looking like they were going to be Q1 eliminations for both cars. But as it was, tweaks in FP3 to the setup meant that Nico Alberg especially felt a little bit more comfortable in the car, and they were happy with the tyre life still. We got to qualifying. He qualified himself in P12, which is a stunning effort for that Haas. It really is. That's the maximum he can drag out of that thing. Inside the, not inside the top 10, but as close to it as he's realistically going to get. That was a good effort, that. There was nothing really to fault there. On the race start, the first initial race start, he started on the soft tyres and leapfrogged a couple of cars and got himself into P10. The race restart came, of course, from P10, and he bogged down. Anti-stall kicked in and unfortunately tumbled to the back of the grid. And then he went for an early pit stop because he was on the soft tyres anyway and thought, look, there's no point in being in traffic, not making any ground. Let's get the hard tyres on and let's try and go for undercuts. Undercuts is what he did. And he got his worked his way all the way up to P14. And then he took... did he take Valtteri Bottas? Yeah, he took Valtteri Bottas for P13. Then he came up on his teammate for P12, who didn't make life too difficult for him. And then he went and got Lance Stroll on the last couple of laps of the race as well to secure that P11 and only finished 5 seconds behind Yuki Sato in the end as well. Made some great ground on Yuki and had a fast, mighty charge through the latter stages of that race. It was an absolute fantastic one to see because prior to that, it was looking like P16 was going to be all he was going to get after that difficult start and the strategy that they elected to go for. But as it was, the late charger that came through, a P11 finish is still crucial for Haas. I know they've already scored points on the board, but if it gets to tie-break situations, which I think it might do with these bottom 5 teams struggling to pick up any sort of points at all, it's going to go on 11th place finishers. So, you know, it might be 1 point away, might be 1 position away from a point, but he's done a good job there, Hulkenberg, and recovered his weekend well. Could have been more, maybe could have been that point. But for Nico Alberg, it's 8 from me. I don't think I can blame him too much. One difficult race start, but certainly made up for it in the race. A stunning qualifying effort, a great finishing position for the Haas. Yeah, it might have been a point, but I don't want to criticise him for one little error after what was a pretty perfect race. 8 to Nico Hulkenberg. And finishing in 12th place, we come to the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll.
I embraced the fact that I was one of the worst drivers in F1. Just check my Twitter.
And there we have it. It is, of course, a Take Inui of the week to Lance Stroll because he was absolutely diabolical this weekend. P18 in qualifying and then never ran in the points at any point during the race. What a stunning effort, Lance, in a car that is capable of points. He's inside that top 5 team. I don't care what happens. He should be P10 as an absolute minimum. And where was he today? P12. But what was the worst thing about his weekend? Was it his poor race performance? Was it the poor qualifying performance? Oh, no, no, no. It was that team radio message that he gave to the end of the race, or towards the end of the race, to his race engineer, where he said, "Oh, I can't believe how slow I am in the straights. It's like I'm in a different category. Oh, no. Tell him to stop. They're driving far too fast. They need to make it slow down. Oh, no, I'm really slow on the straights. I can't believe it. What's happening? It's like I'm in a different category. I can't help it. I can't." Yeah, I don't know what all that were about, Lance. I don't know, but it made me chuckle anyway. What the fucking hell was he playing at there? What kind of team radio was that? Like someone who just squeezed his testicles. I really don't know what happened there, but that team radio was quite funny, especially when he came back over the radio. It was like, you went for a different strategy, Lance, because you're in the pack. We went for tyre life and not straight line speed. Like it sounded like it was dialing the internet. An internet dial-up. Yeah, so that was Lance Stroll. That was about as good as his race weekend got, really. Screaming like a child. But not for the first time, eh? Not for the first time. I'm sure he'll be starting shoving his crew around again and throwing his steering wheel about and having a hissy fit to the interviewers and going, well, I'm driving, I'm not... So I'm sure he'll be crying again, but he wasn't crying this time, although maybe he was, I don't know. He was quite high-pitched though, wasn't it? So Lance Stroll gets Take Inui of the week for a suboptimal performance once again. Then we come to the second of the Haasers in K-Mag, Kevin Magnuson. P13 in the end for him. Okay, not bad. The race in itself, qualified himself, knocked out in Q1, which wasn't ideal, although looking at it, Haas were looking like it were going to be a double Q1 exit for them, based on what we saw in Friday, but got it together for Saturday with Hulkenberg at least. Kevin Magnuson really needs to get his act together when it comes to qualifying to get himself in the best position for points. The race itself looked like it were going to come to him, didn't it, at one stage? He was fighting around that 11th, 12th area, and you think, okay, maybe a point's not possible, but he might get a respectable finish. But as it was then, Lance Stroll that went for the other alternate strategy, which was to stop for softs, but well too early. Fuck knows, anyway. carved his way through, and then pretty much a team order. He didn't make it easy, but he didn't make it difficult. Hulkenberg came through as well in the end. So, yeah, Kevin Magnuson, P13 overall. It was okay, nothing special, nothing spectacular. Certainly not on par with his teammate, but yeah, overall it's a 6.5, maybe generous by half a point there. I don't think there was, you know, a lot more Kevin Magnuson could have done. It would have just been nice to see him closer to his teammate. I think that's the issue. You know, you look on paper and you think P11 and P13 finish for Haas ahead of a number of cars is a respectable finish in the end, but if he was closer to his teammate in qualifying and a little bit closer pace-wise in the race, it could have been a P10 and P11. Do you know what I mean? It makes that difference. It really does. So, yeah, Kevin Magnuson, 6.5 to him. Didn't do anything overly wrong this weekend, but didn't do anything overly right. 14th place, we come to Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo Sauber. Kick me up the arse. Yeah, overall, a great weekend by Valtteri this time around. I think he did a good job in qualifying. Qualified himself in P13, I think. So that was a good effort. That's really all that car's got. In the race itself, it looked like Sauber have got their act together when it comes to the pit stops now. He had a 4-second stop and a 6-second stop. So, again, he's still losing out potentially 2 seconds and 4 seconds just there in pit stop time, but at least it wasn't 35 seconds, 50 seconds, and it wasn't wiping him completely out of the fight. He was running round in around P12, P13 for quite a while, but then as mentioned, Lance Stroll came back through the field again with his late strategy of soft tyres, and Hulkenberg climbed his way past him as well in the latter stages. But overall, I think a P14 finish for him. In the car he's got, I think that was an okay effort. I really do think that Bottas got the maximum out of the car he could this weekend. Could he beat K-Mag? Maybe. I think that's probably about it, though, to be fair. And when it's P13 and P14, there's not really much to write home about there, is there? So for Valtteri Bottas, it's going to be a solid 7 to him. I think that's probably the best we've seen of him so far this season. Still nothing anything remarkable, but it isn't worthy of criticising. He didn't do anything wrong this weekend. He just did what he could with the equipment he was given, and I do feel he got the maximum out of it. So yeah, a solid 7 to Valtteri Bottas this time around. Nice to see him within the fight for the mixer points, even if they just fell short at the end and tumbled a few places. But overall, yeah, it was good, it was okay, it was respectable. 7 to Valtteri Bottas. Next up we come to Esti Bestie Ocon. Esti Bestie to you. Ain't like Esti Bestie Ocon. Yeah, don't really know what could be said for Esteban Ocon's race weekend overall. He got into Q2 once again, but once again lined up P15 because that's the maximum that car's ever got in it. And in the race itself, he looked okay at times, didn't he? But as it was, the pace just dropped off with dramatic consequences for that car, didn't it? It was just absolutely dog shit. And then he's trundling around as, like, at one stage, they were the only cars that were lapped at that point. Both Alpines were lapped. And his team engineer comes over like, yeah, go faster, Ocon, go faster, Esteban. I'm like, what the fuck's he fighting? Fresh air? There's fuck all to race with. He's like 10 seconds ahead of Gasly and he's lapped and no one else is lapped. Like, what's he fighting? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So yeah, he might have been telling him to push, but push for what? I don't really know. It was a bizarre radio message that, like, you're trundling around at the back, mate. Like, just leave it. Have a day off, you know. So yeah, Esteban Ocon, again, good effort to see him inside Q2, but fuck's sake, this Alpine's wank, isn't it? It's absolutely dog shit. It's really showing their drivers up. I mean, Esteban Ocon's certainly not my favourite flavour anyway, but he deserves better than this. But yeah, he did okay. 6.5 to him for that. I think when we get to China, I'll have to start really just giving them more scores. Otherwise, they're not going to have a chance in these standings. It's not their fault the car's shit. But yeah, for now, 6.5 to Esti Bestie Ocon. If they don't start doing anything really wrong, then I might have to start giving them 8s. Just for the fact to feel sorry for them. But yeah, for now it's 6.5. Didn't do anything wrong this weekend. Q2 appearance. Early stages of the race looked good. I think he got as high as about 12th, 13th. And then ultimately just fell away with the lack of Alpining, really. Alpine forgetting it was a race car once again. I think he'd have wished he'd grabbed one of the tractors at the side of the track that was recovering the tyre barriers at the red flag period. That would have probably gone a bit faster, wouldn't it? But for now, 6.5 to Esti Bestie. Finishing behind Esti Bestie, we come to Pierre Gasly. And this race weekend, really, was probably the first one that we saw a difference within the Alpine drivers. Ocon did have the measure of his teammate throughout the weekend. Whether the car's dog shit or not, we saw that deficit. Another Q1 exit for Pierre Gasly. Okay, there's not really much we can do or say about that. That is the pace of the car, but once again, Ocon extracting a Q2 appearance out of it. And then in the race itself, we were mentioning there that Ocon was fighting around that 12th, 13th area at one stage. Didn't last long, but he was there briefly. Pierre Gasly, we didn't really see that from him. He was just propping up the bottom of the timing sheets throughout most of that race, and that was it really. So, yeah, I don't want to be overly critical with Pierre Gasly, but there was a difference between the drivers this time around. So for Pierre Gasly, I've gone for 5.5 for him. I think he deserves 1 point less than his teammate, just for the fact he was certainly a little bit more off the pace than him. Was he fighting for anything? Absolutely not. Ocon wasn't either, but there was a deficit between the drivers. And yeah, I'm sure that some of that is just sheer frustration at how shit the car is, and I don't blame Pierre for that. He's a good talent wasted at a team that is really, really under-delivering. But yeah, 5.5 to Gasly is fair, I think, based on where Ocon was this weekend. And it's as simple as that. Then we come to the last classified finisher in the race, and that is, of course, Logan Sergeant.
Has there been any other driver to be ran over by the medical car and tipped upside down by a recovery truck in the same year? I thought not.
And there we have it. Taki Inoue of the week to Logan Sergeant. Oh dear, shunt in FP1. Damaging the car badly. Not ideal, that was it at all. Not ideal, oh dear. But, you know, at least he can recover it, can't he? You know, he missed FP2 as well, but, you know, FP3's coming. Didn't do anything wrong there. Okay, well, qualifying, you know, do a good appearance. Come on, where are we going to end up? Go on, lad. Go on, you can do it, Logan. You can do it. No, you can't do it. It's just a P18 start once again, or P19 was it even? I'm even over-exaggerating how well he did in qualifying there with P18. I can't remember. Either way, it was shit. And then in the race, you're like, oh, well, at least he's ahead of the Alpines. Oh, there's a yellow flag. Oh, he's driven it straight off into the gravel at Degner 2. Oh, fantastic. Effort, talent. But he wasn't going fast enough to crash. So that's a positive. Well done, Logan. You weren't going fast enough to have a crash this time. You just buried it into the gravel, managed to select reverse and get yourself out. So I will give you a little bit of credit for that. He then just dumped stones and shit all over the track, had to have an extra pit stop and then finished last of the runners. Fantastic effort. Anyway, the week was inbound anyway after that FP1 shunt. I did it for Alex Albon last time out in Australia. No one is exempt from Inui's. And yeah, he gets one this time around as well. Oh dear, Logan Sergeant. What a poor performance. Not good. Big damage once again for Williams. And another lacklustre performance for Logan Sergeant means he gets Taki Inoue of the week. Then we come to the list of retirement. So the first on this list, the last to retire in the race, of course, it is Guan Yu. And you'll never guess what, he just avoids Inoue of the week himself. Once again, this is 3 times I've said that now, but this is the problem. I commissioned Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, to make me 3 of each driver that I'm going through this season, and there's always been 3 drivers that have been worse than Guan Yu. There's always been 3 drivers that have been worse than Guan Yu. So yes, once again he misses it by the skin of the teeth, and once again I'm just awarding him a solitary point. That's all he's getting. But again, a P20 start on the grid, not acceptable. His teammate was up there in P13, and then in the race he was just dawdling around at the back, but a retirement. So then you think, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong with the car, and that's why he escapes it once again by the skin of his teeth. He certainly has avoided 3 of the week so far as Guan Yu. It's just terrible. Really lacking performance. But as mentioned, other drivers have been worse than him, so they get him more than the others. But he's not going to win the championship. He's not really fighting round in the cruel room standings at all, is he? So, you know, it can't be that bad. You know, he's not going to win anything staggering. But it's just annoying at the fact that I've not given him one yet. So I think he might just have to get one in China at his own Grand Prix, just because I can. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens in China. But yeah, I think if he does under-deliver again, he's getting one guaranteed. But yeah, once again, Guan Yu escapes an of the week for the sheer fact that I've not got enough to give out. 1 to show Guan Yu. Then we come to the absolute mighty talent that is Daniel Ricciardo.
Once I finished a race in 8th place. Sadly, that wasn't a points finish, but oh boy did I want those two cars' head to crash so I could score one.
And there we have it. Does that come as any surprise to anyone? Inuit of the week too, Daniel Ricciardo. Stunning effort. What a stunner. Had a spin in FP3 and then we pan to Liam Lawson. Great TV work, camera guy. Great TV work. And then we come to the race and the corner goes left. He's got Alex Albon there, but we'll just come across him. We'll just try bang, there you go. Get the fuck off, Alex. I'm going to stuff myself into the wall because I'm going to get this Red Bull seat no matter what. No matter what. Are you listening? Are you listening? Because Christian Horner loves me. I'm going to get this seat over everyone and anyone because I'm just better. I believe in my own self-confidence, but I just don't know where the pace is. Out-qualified by his teammate. Oh, admittedly, only by a position, but that's all he needs to be out-qualified by. And in the race itself, bogged down at the start. Didn't do very well. Alex Albon came a knocking, and yeah, he just ignored him. Just didn't see he was there. Spatial awareness was lacking somewhat, and took himself and Alex Albon out of the race. Great. Fantastic. Well done, Daniel Ricciardo. And then what did the TV guys do? Well, pan to Liam Lawson in the pit lane. Fantastic. Well done. I do appreciate it. If rumours are to be believed that Helmut Marko has given Daniel Ricciardo a 2-race ultimatum that happened after Australia, then he's very much failed the first test, hasn't he? So if he doesn't deliver in China, does that mean we're going to see Liam Lawson out for Miami? Out on the grid? I don't know. Let's see. But for now, Daniel Ricciardo is doing absolutely dog shit. Tsunoda picks up a point after a fantastic qualifying and great race. Daniel Ricciardo, a P11 finish, which is respectable. I'll give him that. It is a decent effort. But then a slight slow start. And yeah, no spatial awareness. Takes himself and Alex Albon out. Not good. Taki Inuit of the week too. Daniel Ricciardo. And last but by no means least, we come to Alex Albon, of course. Arrived at the scene of the accident, of course, with Daniel Ricciardo, due to Daniel Ricciardo not looking where he was going. Put it down as a racing incident, which in fairness I do sort of agree with. It is the first lap, but if you're going to lay blame on anyone, you're going to blame it on 100% Daniel Ricciardo. I don't know what the hell he was playing at, but anyway. Once again, more damage for the Williams squad, which is just what they needed, because they've not had quite enough yet. And guess what? This chassis that Alex Albon's got, which was formerly Logan Sergeant's, is having to be flown back to the Williams factory for further assessment before the Chinese Grand Prix. They don't know if it's damaged or not, which is just fucking ridiculous, isn't it? Like, how much bad luck can one team have? I hope it isn't damaged, but still, it's having to be flown back. It's got to be looked at. It needs to be fixed potentially. Then it's got to get back for China. It's stress that these teams, these mechanics do not need. And this is why I always say there's too many races in the Formula 1 calendar. 24 races, and if you're having a spell like what Williams are having at the moment, where be it the driver's fault or just racing incidents' fault, they've had 3 accidents in 2 weekends. It's not good for them. It isn't good for them. They already know that when they get to China, they're going to have an all-nighter because that chassis is going to be flown back and they're going to have to build that car up again, ready for Friday. It's not acceptable. It's not on. The calendar's too close together. Those mechanics are going to be exhausted, and I feel incredibly sorry for them. And this is when accidents are going to happen. Mistakes are going to be made, and it's going to kill a mechanic, a driver, people in the pit lane, marshals, spectators. Anything could go wrong when tiredness sets in. You forget to tighten a bolt up. You forget to loosen that. You don't do that. You don't put that on. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are going to be made. And Williams just cannot catch a break at the moment, be it their own drivers crashing or being caught up in an unfortunate racing incident like Alex Albon was. It's still a lot of damage. I think that the bill's already over $2 million already. With just what Alex Albon had last time out in Australia, what's happened now in Japan with Logan, and of course with Alex again as well. Not good. Not good. Yeah, they're having a nightmare, aren't they? So for the list of retirements, they can only score a maximum of 5 points anyway. I don't know if I mentioned that or not with Guan Yu. I think I was too busy shouting about him. But yeah, for the list of retirements, the maximum they can only ever score is 5 to try and keep it fair for the drivers that did actually finish. Alex Albon this time around, I'm going to score him 2.5. 2.5 to Alex Albon. Half a 5 I think is fair because we didn't get to see what he was capable of in the race. And qualifying P14... I think there was more in that Williams. I must be honest. He was struggling with confidence in the car, but yeah, when you see the likes of Tsunoda getting into Q3, Ricciardo P11, Hulkenberg P12, Alex should be there. I mean, Bottas beating him as well was the big one for me. Bottas P13. I think Alex should have been there P12 for me personally. I don't think it's quite a Q3 qualifier, but it's certainly better than P14. So I've marked him down based on qualifying alone. The race itself was not Alex's fault. Just one of those things for him. But yeah, Alex Albon, 2.5. So there we have everything, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the Japanese Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated standings with the scores I have just awarded are on the screen now for you to take a look at. See where your favourite driver is now. Are you pleased with that? Are you disappointed with that? And let me know, of course, in the comments what you would have scored the drivers respectively based on their race weekend's performance. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Max Verstappen, of course, leading the way once again, but it's all tight at the top. We're starting to see an order resemble, though, now, aren't we? Just after 4 rounds, we're seeing those reject drivers tumble down to the bottom of the field. We're seeing the high drivers, the drivers that are doing well every race, get the praise that they deserve and are climbing up the ranks as well. So not only do we do the driver standings, we of course culminate both of their drivers' scores together and we create the team standings. How original. That's on the screen now for you as well to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite team is. I mean, there's some surprises in there, I'll give you that. But again, it's early days. I'm not doing anything this time around with the teams. I'm not going to manipulate their scores by adding or subtracting because I can do that. I do what I like on this series. That some of the teams already have minus points delivered last time out in Australia. I'm leaving them alone this time around. But yeah, if I feel that some drivers are constantly under-delivering compared to what the car is capable of doing, I'll add the team points on. If I think that the team are screwing the drivers over with poor strategies, poor reliability, etc., I'll take the points off. It's as simple as that. There's unregulated... It's totally unregulated is the team standings, and I'll do what I bloody well want. I certainly am not going to be holding back as the season progresses, let me tell you that. A massive thanks as always goes out, of course, to Dan, formerly of Mushy Gaming, currently running under his own name, Dan Bartlett, over on his YouTube channel, of course. He provides me with the intro, the driver icons you see on your screen, and the scoreboards. So without him, this series would be more pointless than it already is. He does all the hard work, I just shout in a cupboard. And of course, who can forget Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for providing me with the of the weeks that you all don't know, but you might just possibly love, because we're changing them every single race, of course. With 4 down, there's 20 reject drivers of the 90s still left to go. Who they're going to be next time out? You'll have to wait and see. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time for the Chinese Grand Prix, of course. But before then, I'm doing the Formula E stuff as well, if you like Formula E. But if not, yeah, I'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And as always, much love.